Santa Clarita is a proud community with a long history of honoring those in our community who have put service above themselves. And that is what today is about, pride and honor, honoring those who have served our country with pride. Now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our sponsor, Julie, I'm talking slow so you can move, Julie Benson with Princess Cruises.
Thank you, Terry, and good afternoon to all of you. Princess Cruises is absolutely honored and delighted to be one of the sponsors of today's luncheon. And, you know, what a terrific turnout today. I understand this is the largest one ever for this event. And again, yay! And it shows that this valley really cares about patriots and our veterans and those who serve our country. So this cause is also one that is very dear to our company, to Princess Cruises. And over the last couple of years, we've launched a number of initiatives to support and honor veterans and those who have served, which we're very happy about. One of them is an opportunity to do some significant fundraising for two veterans organizations this coming fall on one of our ships. We've turned over the whole ship to be a fundraising operation to raise $1 million for the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Fund and Operation Homefront. And this is a little bit of a sales pitch because we have cabins available and there'll be some material on the outside table for you to take, but it's a 4-day sailing going round trip out of Houston on a ship called Caribbean Princess. And it is going to be 4 days of not only wonderful vacation activities, but some really exciting and uplifting and inspiring panels and discussions and activities, all honoring and celebrating those who have served our country. And we have authors like the noted war correspondent Joe Galloway, who's going to be on board with us. We have very senior retired military officials, such as Admiral Michael Mullen, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We have General George Casey, who's the former Army Chief of Staff. General Norton Swartz, former Air Force Chief of Staff. Admiral Gary Roughead, former Chief of Naval Operations. And we're still in the process of confirming more, including, we can't forget the Marines, a senior Marine official. It conflicts with the birthday of the Marines, so we've had a little bit of a challenge coordinating schedules, but definitely we're going to have the Marines represented as well. One of the exciting things that we're launching on this cruise as well is a new partnership with the Library of Congress and the Veterans History Project that Princess is now a part of. Many of you may know that the Veterans History Project exists to record oral histories from veterans, all the way from World War II down to our current conflicts. And they exist to record their stories, to preserve their real-time experiences and their memories, and lest we not forget them, and to put them into posterity into the Library of Congress. So we are delighted. It launched with our president and CEO, Alan Buckaloo, recording his history. He's a Vietnam veteran, and that was placed in the Library of Congress. And on board this cruise, we're going to have the Veterans History Project on board with us, facilitating collection of these stories, which we will in turn then help to place in the Library of Congress. So it's a great and exciting activity that will be one of many on board that cruise. And Princess has also been designated as a commemorative partner for the 50th anniversary acknowledgement and celebration of the Vietnam War. So there's a number of things that Princess is involved with, which we're very proud to be. So we were, of course, delighted to sponsor the luncheon today. So I thank you all on behalf of our company for supporting our veterans in the Santa Clarita Valley, and enjoy the rest of the program. I'd like to now introduce the 2013 Chairman of the Board for the Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Fred Arnold.
Well, Well, welcome everybody. I'm excited to be here. This is our third annual Patriot Lunch. This was a vision of the Chamber after we established the Ian Gehlig Scholarship. Ian Gehlig was a citizen of our great community who was killed in Afghanistan, and we wanted to do something to honor Ian and all those that had fallen. And we said, let's do a lunch where we can honor the person who received the scholarship for the Ian Gehlig Scholarship, but let's go further. Let's honor great veterans from our community. And so this is the ability to do that. And today we're going to do that. We're going to honor Fred Lionetti, Donald LaFond, Chuck Morris. We're going to honor Mike Bertell, Nick Callas, Dana Stobin, Robert Vernon Scobie, and Todd Sharbutt. So we're excited to do that today, and we're honored you're all here. I want to recognize a few people just real quickly because it wouldn't be a great event without recognize so many in the room. I want to thank those that were part of this kind of ad hoc committee that put this together. Jerry Goldman, J.D. Kennedy, Tammy Edwards, Jim Lentini, and Terry Crane, and Megan Mann from SCVTV. Thanks for making this thing happen. Terry's team at the Chamber did a great job also. Thank you for kind of all the changes we made in the seating arrangements. I know we tried to do our best to put you in a good spot, but the Chamber did a great job and staff did a great job, so thank you very much. Yep. And last but not least, it wouldn't be a great event without recognizing our elected officials. I do want to recognize Scott Wilkes. Scott came here all the way from Sacramento. Scott. Now, many of you know me, I don't like a ton of details because I get confused. So I don't have a name of every elected official in this room, which is probably 2 people per table. So if we can recognize all those who are elected officials in the room, please stand and be recognized. Please. And last but not least, I get this distinct honor of introducing certainly someone everyone knows in this room, somebody that is passionate about his veterans, someone who's served in with the LAPD. He's served the city for well over a dozen years. And when it comes to anything having to do with the military veterans, this individual is always spot on and always reliable. And I want to ask him to come up and say a few words. Please help me to welcome our Mayor, Bob Keller.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here today, and particularly with these very special honorees. Gentlemen, an honor to be here with you, indeed. I was asked to say a few words, and I'm going to do like I'm told, say a few words. But before I get into that, I thought I'd mention something. There's something that a lot of folks are not aware of today, and I think it's appropriate, because I've been a victim of this sort of thing myself. Tammy Edwards, would you stand up? Where are you? Over there. She's way over there. Happy birthday. You know, we recently, and I know I saw a lot of you there, we're at our 4th of July parade. What a turnout. In each year, so help me, it gets bigger and bigger, celebrating the birthday of America. You ever stop and think about it? Do you know we would have not had that parade had it not been for our veterans? They're the only reason that this country has been able to sustain. And all a major reason as to why we here in Santa Clarita have been what I consider to be truly an all-American city. A city that we can be so proud of. And their acknowledgement, not just acknowledging, but embracing our military, both present and those that have served in the past. I can't help it as I look around our city and take note of so many of the things that we have done to honor our veterans. We're all aware of the largest bridge in the city of Santa Clarita, Fallen Warriors Bridge, very appropriately named after those that we have lost, and I see we've got some Gold Star families with us here today as well. We have a tremendous Memorial Day event over at Eternal Valley, thanks to our friends over there that work and sponsor that, along with the city and so many others. Thank you. Something happened the other day. Oh, and I wanted to mention Veterans Park, Veterans Plaza. We've all been over there. What a beautiful thing. And I will tell you, I was one of the people, I love this idea. This is a great idea, Veterans Plaza. There's only one problem, it isn't big enough. It's not big enough. But you know what? When I go over there and I see what we've got, it is perfect. It could have not come out better. And what an appropriate, once again, tribute to our veterans here in Santa Clarita. Yes. However, there is something that occurred a while back, and unfortunately this has occurred too much. But I will mention a specific date, and it was March 19th, 2011. And there are other dates also that are to be remembered. But that was the date that we lost one of our finest here in Santa Clarita, the date that Rudy Acosta lost his life serving in Afghanistan. And folks, I cannot begin to tell you, this city, Santa Clarita, and all of our neighbors living here in the valley came together and paid tribute to that young soldier when he came home for the last time, and lined the streets, literally thousands and thousands of our citizens, and I know many of you in this room stood along those sidewalks and recognized the family and recognized Rudy Acosta, who unfortunately became the 11th member of the military that we've lost since 9/11. God willing, we will lose no more. I just simply say, as I look at our table here, God bless the families. God bless your young people. God bless you, and may we never forget our veterans. Thank you.
At this point, I would like to recognize all the veterans in the room. All those that are veterans, please stand and stay standing. Please stand up. There's a lot of them here. In fact, one can't stand in the back. Wave. You're a veteran also? Very good. Thank you very much. Thank you. I want to read something to you, and this is meant just for you. What do veterans mean to us? It comes down to one sentence that may not have meant anything to you before September 11th. Freedom is not free. The events of September 11th have changed our focus. We are now fighting a global war on terrorism against violent extremists wanting to end our way of life. The war is about two incompatible visions of the world: democracy, justice, freedom, and the hope on one hand, and intolerance, repression, and violence on the other. Freedom has never been free, as spoken by those that just stood. The belief resonates strongly in the hearts of our nation's veterans. For those who have put their lives on the line for our country, freedom has a special meaning that we will never know. Ask a veteran who stormed Omaha Beach in World War II, who almost froze in Korea, who slogged through the steaming Mekong Delta in Vietnam, who chased the Republican Guard all the way back to Baghdad, or who is still fighting Al-Qaeda insurgents in Afghanistan and Iraq. These people could tell you the meaning of freedom. Today, the return of our servicemen and women get due fanfare. People shake their hands at airports and thank them for their valiant service. Unfortunately, there were times in our nation's history when our veterans didn't return to this warm welcome. Korea, Vietnam veterans didn't get a hero's welcome at all. America has taken great strides to try to heal the wounds of these veterans. It took time, but our citizens, especially our Santa Clarita citizens, have recognized the price they have paid, even though they may not have agreed upon the principles of the U.S. being in those wars. The words freedom is not free, etched in the marble of the Korean War Memorial, honoring Americans who fought the forgotten war. By recognizing the contributions of these forgotten heroes, we can continue to heal the wounds and ensure we'll never forget them. Americans everywhere have rediscovered a great pride in our nation's veterans, in those of you that stood up. Because of our veterans past, we are free. Because of our veterans present and future, we will remain free. Thank you. At this point, I'd like to get to the awards and recognizing our honorees. I'd like to welcome Josie. Josie is going to honor Fred Lionetti. Fred Lionetti, Josie.
Thank you. Every family has that one person that brings them together, that person that helps them in times of despair, guides them in the right direction, and that everyone knows they can rely on. In my family, that person is my grandfather, Fred Lionetti. Growing up, he was the man who was always there to catch my fall, whom I admired and whom I always counted on. And to this day, he has never let me down, nor has he ever let anyone down. And that's exactly why some of us are here today to honor him. Fred Lionetti was born in November of 1926 in Lower Manhattan, New York. He was the 11th of 12 children. In 1944, at the young age of 17, he joined the Navy, a heroic decision for any man to take. He was then transferred to the 139th Naval Construction Battalion, better known as the Seabees, stationed in Oxnard, California. He was 18 when his battalion was involved in the invasion of Okinawa in 1945. While in Okinawa, he became petty officer and was in charge of transportation on an Okinawa beach. His battalion was being prepared for the invasion of the Japanese mainland after the Japanese surrender in Okinawa in June of 1945. Fred remained in Okinawa until the end of the war in 1945. Following the end of the war, he was transferred to a naval base in New Hampshire and received an honorable discharge on July 1946 on Lido Beach, New York. Fred received the American Theater Medal, the Victory Medal, and finally the Asiatic Pacific Medal with 1 star. He then returned back to Brooklyn, New York, and continued his schooling at Lafayette High School, where in his economics class he met Joe Monty. Fred went on to graduate from the University of Bridgeport in Bridgeport, Connecticut. He later attended the American Institute of Banking and also the New York Institute of Banking and Finance. Then in 1950, Fred and Joe married and will be celebrating their 63rd anniversary this October. They have a daughter, Marie, and a son. They have 7 children and 5 great-grandchildren. In 1994, he was named Father of the Year by the Juvenile Diabetes Association and the top banker of the San Fernando Valley in 2002. The following year, he was honored with the Humanitarian Award by the National Jewish Medical Research Center and is the present trustee. Fred has led a life of bravery and honor. He has honored his country with his service and continues to touch the lives of every individual he meets. As a family man, my grandfather has provided stability when there was none, hope when hope was hard to find, compassion when it was needed, and has always provided love. Love is a strong word. Saying I love you is one thing, but acting on it is another. He has shown his family unconditional love and continues to show love to everyone he meets, stranger or friend. When I was writing this speech, I called him just to ask a quick question. And once I received my answer, I was ready to hang up the phone. But then he told me, Josie, I want you to know that I am so proud of you and that I love you. I love you is a phrase that is sadly used too often, and often said without true understanding of what love means. When I hear my grandfather tell my grandmother, I love you, Joe, or when he tells me he loves me, I know he means it. I am honored to have a grandfather as amazing as Fred, and I can say wholeheartedly that I would not be the lady I am today without his guidance and wisdom. My grandfather is a remarkable man, and during my 14 years, I have been lucky enough to have him with me. He has never disappointed me, nor has he ever let anyone down with trust in him. He always comes through and is always successful. He is an amazing man, worker, father, grandfather, and friend. He is Fred Lionetti. Congratulations to all you gentlemen.
Just my children and my wife.
Josie, thank you very much. That was absolutely beautiful. Next up is Donald H. LaFond, and he will be presented by his daughter, Laura Ketchoff.
Donald H. LaFond was born on October 8, 1923 in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin. He moved to Muskegon, Michigan at age 5 and lived there during his childhood. On August 13, 1943, at age 19, he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps and was sent to the Marine Corps Recruiting Depot in San Diego, California for boot camp basic training. He next received combat training at Camp Elliott in California until December 1943, after which he was sent to Hawaii, where he joined the 2nd Marine Division to further his combat training. His division was then shipped to Saipan, arriving on June 15, 1944, a day he will never forget. The 2nd Marine Division boarded their amphibious landing craft from their ship at sea and prepared to make their amphibious landing assault on Saipan of the Marianas Islands. As the crafts neared the shore, the ramp of the craft went down and they rushed toward the beach. There was no protection in front of them, and bullets were raining down all around them. They were unable to see the enemy because they were hiding behind bushes and other protection. Men were being shot and killed before Don's very eyes. He somberly recalls, "The water was turning red with blood from our men." On June 25, 1944, the 2nd Marine Division captured Mount Tochapo, the key point for observers controlling Japanese artillery fire. Their mission was to destroy forces in the Cagman Peninsula. Days later, Don was in combat in the town of Garapan. This was one July 4th he will never forget. They later laughed that it was the most fireworks they would ever see on the 4th of July. July 9th, 1944 is another date that Donald will always remember. It was the day they secured the island of Saipan. His division reached the north end of Saipan, and all organized Japanese resistance was finished. Among the Japanese dead was Admiral Chuichi Nagumo, leader of the Pearl Harbor raid. The Marine casualties on Saipan totaled 3,152, with 8,575 wounded. Losses for the Navy serving with the Marines were 337 wounded and 777 killed. With this campaign nearing the end, Donald will never forget what he saw as they came to the edge of a C-shaped cliff. Standing on one side of the cliff, they could see to the opposite side where Japanese women and mothers were throwing their small children over the cliffs onto the rocks and the water below. Mothers were jumping over to their deaths with babies in their arms. They were told by their own government that if they were captured by the Americans, they would be tortured. On July 13, 1944, the 2nd and 4th Marine Divisions began recuperation and preparation for the July 24th Tinian assault. On that day, the 2nd Marine Division made an amphibious landing on the eastern part of Tinian. The Japanese military were waiting for them and conducted a major banzai attack against the Marines as they were making their landing. They were able to secure an area on the beach and caused severe enemy loss, but again, at the cost of many American lives. The next day, July 25th, 1944, Don's team assumed responsibility of the eastern half of their zone. They then captured Ushi Point Airfield. After a few days of combat, the airfield went into operation by the U.S. Air Force. Don's team fought on for 5 more days, meeting stiff opposition, but continuing to make ground. On July 31st, 1944, they again met with stiff resistance along the eastern part of Tinian, but they were able to advance and gain even more ground. Day after day, night after night, they fought on despite nightly attacks, bombing of artillery, and mortar attacks. Don remembers the heavy rain, which made the mission even more difficult. He says that fighting in the rain and slopping through the mud became second nature to us. We were trained for conditions such as that. On August 1st, 1944, the day they were hoping for had arrived. The 2nd and 4th Marine Divisions reached the southern coast of Tinian, where all organized Japanese resistance was finished. The fighting was over, or so they thought, but at the cost of another 368 American lives and 1,921 wounded. On August 6, 1944, the 2nd and 4th Marine Divisions began leaving Tinian. The 4th Marine Division was headed to Hawaii, and the 2nd Marine Division was returned to Saipan to begin training for their next campaign, which was to be in Okinawa. On Saipan, they soon discovered that there were more Japanese military still up in the hills, so back into combat they went. On November 17, 1944, while advancing up the mountain, James Garner, a fellow Marine fighting along with Don, was shot. Seeing his fellow Marine shot down, Don ran to James and picked him up, carrying him to safety. At the same time, a bomb went off next to them, and Don was hit with shrapnel. He still pushed on, running wounded while carrying James on his back, and managed to get James out. After recovering from his wounds, Don was back into combat training, preparing for the next campaign. On March 25, 1945, Don and his fellow Marines were ordered to board ship, and after several days at sea, they were told they were going into combat on Okinawa. On April 1, 1945, the 2nd Marine Division made yet another amphibious landing off the southeast coast of Okinawa. When they were not met with any enemy resistance, they were ordered to leave the front lines and return to Saipan. While on their way back to Saipan, Don heard the news that President Franklin D. Roosevelt had died and that Vice President Harry S. Truman was sworn in as President of the United States. On August 6, 1945, Don remembers when the first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, Japan, and the second one that followed on August 9, 1945, on Nagasaki. On August 10th, Japan surrendered, and on September 2nd, Japanese representatives signed formal surrender documents. The war was over. After the war ended on September 23, 1945, Don was sent to do occupational duty in Nagasaki, Japan, where the second atomic bomb had been dropped. His occupation duty continued until December of that year. In December 1945, Donald finally returned home to the United States of America 2 years and 4 months after enlisting in the Marines. He was honorably discharged from the United States Marine Corps on January 7, 1946. After returning home to Michigan and meeting his baby sister for the first time, Don decided to further his education and enrolled in a trade school to learn the sheet metal trade, drafting, and design. With this new skill, he worked in sheet metal for several years, earning a good living and supporting his family. Following that, he worked drafting and design to build automobile parts. After working in Muskegon for many years, in 1953, he decided to move to sunny and warm California. Once in California, he went to work for Packard Bell in the government division as a draftsman. During his time with Packard Bell, he met the love of his life, Violet Principe, and was married in 1960. Donald and Violet then started their family and have 2 daughters, Laura and Lynn. Donald then decided to take his state license exam to earn his real estate license. After several years as a real estate salesman, he became a broker and worked for Century 21 Real Estate before starting his own office, Don LaFond Real Estate Company. When the real estate market took a downturn, Don began working at Hughes Aircraft, where he designed aircraft parts. He retired from Hughes Aircraft after 21 successful years. After retirement, Don joined the Military Order of the Purple Heart and began actively serving veterans through this association. From 2007 to 2009, he was the Chapter 2 commander and is currently the Chapter 2 adjutant. In 2011, Don was honored when he was awarded the Patriot of the Year for the state of California and also Patriot of the Year for the Western United States and Guam, recognizing the outstanding work he continues to do today on behalf of the Military Order of the Purple Heart. Don remains active today in veteran affairs and continues to advocate for veterans everywhere. At age 89 and almost 90, Donald remains active in the Military Order of the Purple Heart, attending meetings as well as state and national conventions. One of his latest accomplishments came recently when he petitioned the city of Los Angeles to become a Purple Heart city. After much work and many months with the help of Councilmember Tom LaFond, this goal was achieved when Los Angeles became a Purple Heart city on October 16, 2012. Don, along with many veterans, including the California State Commander, were honored to attend the Los Angeles City Council meetings when the council members presented him with this proclamation. His wife, Violet, was honored to be there with him. Most recently, Don was instrumental in guiding the process for our local chapter of the Military Order of the Purple Heart to petition the city of Santa Clarita to become an official Purple Heart city. Working with the commander of the San Fernando Valley chapter, this goal was accomplished, and on February 12th of this year, and before a room filled with honored veterans and Purple Heart recipients, the Santa Clarita Valley City Council proclaimed the city of Santa Clarita an official Purple Heart city. In remembering his military experiences, Don recalls, "After all is said and done, I can say that I am proud I was able to serve my country in this manner. At times it was a pleasure, but most of the time it was pure hell. It was a great experience for me to be in combat, but I would never want to do it again. The United States Marines are considered by many to be the greatest combat fighting force in the world, and I feel very proud to be a part of them. World War II was another chapter of Marine history, and I must say I am proud to have been a part of this chapter in history of the United States Marine Corps. This was a journey I will never forget." At this time, it is with great pride and pleasure to introduce to you World War II Marine veteran, Purple Heart recipient, Patriot of the Year, and a man I very proudly call my father, Donald H. LaFond.
Mr. LaFond, I think that's the longest your daughter's probably ever made you stand before. I'd like to welcome up Mayor Bob Keller to speak about Korean War veteran Chuck Morris.
What a pleasure and what an honor, ladies and gentlemen. Chuck, come on over here. Chuck Morris, who was born in Chicago, has lived in Southern California since 1948. He graduated from North Hollywood High School in '52 and was immediately drafted into the Army. Chuck was supposed to report for induction in 1953, but he was eager to serve in the Korean War, which was by then beginning to wind down. He was able to move his induction date to October of 1952. He reported to the Mode Day building in downtown Los Angeles and was sworn in as an Army private. After basic training at Fort Ord, I spent a little time there myself. He was assigned to Fort Lewis in Washington as a tank driver. After a short time at Fort Lewis, Chuck's platoon was ordered to Korea. To Chuck's disappointment, half of his platoon orders were changed at the last minute, and he, along with many of his fellow servicemen, wound up in Germany as part of the 1st Infantry Division. In Germany, Chuck served as a field radio operator. After discharge as a PFC in 1954, Chuck met the love of his life, Barbara, when they were both working at Republic Indemnity Insurance Company, and coincidentally, Barbara had been a friend of Chuck's sister years earlier, but they had never met before working at the same company. They were married in August of 1956. They had 2 children, Mark, born in '58, and Stephanie, who was born in 1960. They are the proud grandparents of Danielle and even prouder of their great-grandson, Nathaniel. Chuck spent most of his working career in automobile dealership management. He never became involved in the community until shortly after moving to Santa Clarita in 1991. He and Barbara first volunteered to help the Boys and Girls Club's annual auction. Then came the Friendly Valley Veterans Club. Chuck became the commander of the Veterans Club in 2009. He also headed the Friendly Valley Memorial Day Parade Committee and was instrumental in putting together the annual Memorial Day service for Friendly Valley. Now this is a real good part here, folks. When Chuck heard about a traveling Vietnam wall, he thought that there would be this would be a great thing to have at the next Friendly Valley Memorial Day Parade. Little did he know that the wall was 200 feet long, I think it's even a little longer than that, and required a reservation at least 6 months in advance. Instead of simply abandoning the plan after learning that the wall was not something that could be paraded down the streets of Friendly Valley, Chuck began to formulate a plan to bring the city of Santa Clarita a tribute to all of the Vietnam veterans. The rest, as they say, is history. And I will tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is the gentleman that is responsible for the Vietnam Wall, which will be coming to Santa Clarita on September 26th, Thursday evening, 6 p.m. will be a kickoff program. And this man has been working now for approximately a year and bringing everybody together, and this is truly going to be an incredible event here in Santa Clarita, and I am so proud to call this gentleman my friend. I will look forward to seeing everybody in the room Thursday night, September 26th. It will remain with us at Westfield Mall over at Citrus and Magic Mountain through Sunday, and each evening at 6 p.m. we will have an activity there. Please join me in acknowledging Chuck Morris.
Next, I'd like to welcome up Dwayne Hardy, where Dwayne Hardy will be welcoming up to the stage Vietnam veteran Mike Bertell. Dwayne, Mike.
We can all give thanks to have all of these gentlemen with us today. Mike was born in Burbank on February 5th, 1948. He grew up in the San Fernando Valley, attending Polytechnic High School, and furthered his education at Valley Junior College. In his third semester, he moved to Lancaster with his parents. His father was taking a new position with a company he was working for. During summer break, Mike received his draft notice. It was September of 1969 when he was inducted into the Army. He was levied for Vietnam. He landed in Cam Bay. His first unit was a 409th Battalion, 25th Infantry Division, Charlie Company. They operated in the south from the city of Chu Chi. He was with the 25th for approximately 2 months when the United States started withdrawing troops and they were pulled out. He was then reassigned to the 1327th Battalion, 101st Airborne Division, Alpha Company. The 101st was operating up north near the city of Hue at Camp Eagle. From Camp Eagle, his company worked from several fire bases. Some were Bastogne, Camp Evans, Birmingham, and Checkmate. Most of his time in Vietnam was spent in the jungle. At this time, he has no desire to revisit Vietnam again. He has 2 wonderful children, both grown, his daughter working on her master's degree, and his son has plans to purchase the business he is currently working for. In the very near future, Mike will be retiring from his business and plans to travel and continue with his hobbies. He has had many over the years, and at present, he will be working on his Jaguar and English motorcycles. Mike is still carrying the scars of combat. He is the post leader of Point Man Ministries and on the board of officers for the Antelope Valley Mobile Vietnam Wall. He recently withdrew from 20 years on the board of the Lancaster Mayor's Prayer Breakfast and is worshiping at Journey Church in Lancaster. Thank you.
would just thank you very much for the award. To tell you the truth, the first award I've ever received. And it's quite an honor. But you know, receiving an award is one thing, but it's the desire to give back to the community and to help your brothers and sisters returning from Afghanistan and Iraq, and giving them help that you didn't receive when you got back. So it's just that you know, I guess that burning desire to help them, and it's just that gratitude. I thank you very much for this award. It's something I can hang in my new apartment, and I want to say that there's something that you can hang in your heart. It's all those memories from all those days past and the things you've accomplished that they can't take away from you. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome up J.D. Kennedy, and he'll be introducing a Vietnam veteran, Nick Callas. Nick?
Nick Callas was born in Salt Lake City, Utah in 1946 and joined the Air Force in August of '65 soon after graduating high school. He was sent to Lackland Air Force Base for boot camp and put on a fast-track basic training course due to the needs of the war in Southeast Asia. Following basic, Nick was next sent to Gunner Air Force Base, Alabama in 1965 for medical service training as a field medic and corpsman. Upon completion, Nick was permanently assigned to Vandenberg Air Force Base in California. In 1966 and 1967, he was stationed to Cam Ranh Bay Air Base, Vietnam, for 3 temporary duty assignments of 90 days each time. During these assignments, Nick worked at the Air Base Hospital, and after each assignment was terminated, he was returned to Vandenberg. And Nick says each time it seemed like he would return home just long enough to get his laundry done, he'd get his orders and be sent right back to Vietnam. Nick was discharged from the Air Force from Vandenberg Air Force Base in January of 1969, an early out declared by President Nixon as part of the troop downsizing from the manpower of war. His total military service, active and reserve, was 6 years. For a period of time following his discharge, Nick worked as a psychiatric technician at private hospital in Van Nuys, and then on to volunteering as a hospice care provider in Davis, California, near Sacramento. As Fred had mentioned, and everybody knows, when Nick and our Vietnam vets were coming home, they weren't getting a very warm welcome. And I'm proud to call Nick one of my friends. Just a few years ago, he was among the first in Santa Clarita to give me a welcome home. So I present to you, Nick Callas.
Next, I'd like to welcome up Sarah Tyndall, and she's with the Senator Knight's office, to introduce Vietnam veteran Dana Stobin.
Dana Stobin's life started out like most kids. He got into things he shouldn't have. He was raised in San Fernando Valley. He went to school and graduated high school. After registering for the draft and receiving a low draft number, he decided to beat the system and enlist in the Navy instead of the Army getting him. After starting boot camp, he was watching the news when he found out the draft was over. The joke was on him. After completing boot camp, he was off to A school. It was not a hard school, but there were some challenges. One of Dana's best moments was learning how to give injections using a syringe filled with vodka, then eating the oranges. He graduated A school, and he was on his way to the next school. If all of you remember, they were paid to travel between duty stations. His pay was $1 each way. Once again, he outsmarted himself. He thought that the more school, the less he would need to see sea service. Bud's basic underwater demolition school was much harder and the most challenging school that he had ever attended. School was finished, and he was set for what was next. He was on his way to Travis Air Force Base and the very luxurious accommodations of the C-130 transport. Others got to travel on commercial airlines, but he flew on a C-130. It was a sign of what was to come. Once landing in Saigon, he was put in a room until his orders came through Fleet Marine Forces. For a sheltered kid, that was an eye-opening experience. He had been told about the blood and guts, and he had watched the movies, but nothing could have prepared him for the reality of war. The first time that he saw someone shot, he was devastated. He did not know if he would make it. Some days he would wonder which was better duty. FMF of riverboats was. Going up and down the river was a lot of fun. People shooting at you was always fun. While on the boat, he was inserted on missions and they retrieved. It was during one of these missions that Dana was hit with shrapnel when a booby trap was set off. He had no recollection of that until he arrived at Oakland Naval Hospital. The first MD took a look at his leg, and after the exam, he said he would be losing his leg above the knee. Thank God Dana was on painkillers. He told him where to go, how to get there, and what to do when he got there. He made some choice references to his parents and told him to do something that was anatomically impossible. Dana wanted a second opinion. He got a young Turk who told him that he could try a new procedure and that if it did not work, he could take his leg later. It worked, and 12 surgeries later, he still has his leg. After the hospital, he returned to the fleet. While the ship was in for repairs, he was able to stand on guard duty in one of the engine rooms. The reason was that the engine rooms were open and nothing was supposed to go into them. During his watch, someone came down into the engine room. He was wearing a hard hat and overalls. Dana walked up behind him and stuck his .45 behind his ear. He told him not to move and proceeded to search him. Finding no ID, he called the quarter and informed them there was an intruder alert. Next thing Dana knew, everyone and his brother was there, including the old man. After giving his report, the captain looked at his captive and gave Dana a direct order to let him go. About the same time, his relief came down and gave him his belt. When he gave him the .45, he dropped the clip and cleared the chamber. Upon doing this, a .45 shell hit the ground. A few eyes were on him. No one had expected to hear the shell. The captain started to chew him out when the stranger intervened. He was then introduced to the base commander, 2 stars. He told the captain that Dana was right and he was wrong. A letter of commendation was in his file. Shortly thereafter, he left the Navy. Dana Stobin, everyone.
Some amazing and entertaining stories, without a doubt. Next time, honey, the pool equipment doesn't work, I won't complain as much as what these guys have gone through, without a doubt. I'd like to next welcome up our own Jim Lentini, who's going to introduce Robert Vernon Scobie, a Vietnam veteran.
Thank you, Fred. When I walked in today, JD informed me that I was reading a bio, and I'm looking through this, and I didn't realize my family's got a history with the 1st Marine Division. And this guy is something else. Robert Vernon Scobie was raised on a small farm in Ohio. He was trained from the time he was 6 years old, first by his grandfather, a government hunter, and one of the last real Old West lawmen. Then later by 2 distant uncles who had both served in the Pacific during World War II. At age 19, after 1 year of naval ROTC at Ohio State University, he enlisted in the Marine Corps. His boot camp was at Parris Island, South Carolina, where he was assigned in the #1 senior DI in the Corps, and he was also a platoon guide. DI is drill instructor. In early December 1965, at the age of 22, a Navy captain pinned his 2nd lieutenant bars, and 10 minutes later, his fiancée, who is still his wife, pinned on his gold wings as a fully qualified Marine Corps fighter pilot. Then, Because he was number one in his flight training class, he was sent to a fully operational squadron, which was flying the hottest fighter in the world, the single-seat, single-engine F-8 Crusader, last of the gunfighters. Then he was chosen as the only wingman of the squadron operations officer, an Air Force exchange pilot, and as the all-time top graduate of the Air Force Fighter Weapons School. Together, the two of them rewrote the weapon delivery manual for the F-8 Crusader. On October 4th, 1966, he went to Vietnam and directly into the VMF 235, the Death Angels, on the Da Nang Air Base. A few months later, at his request, he was assigned to a ground unit of his choice, 3rd Battalion, 1st Marine Division, where he was essentially totally on his own as the forward air controller, the artillery forward observer, and the battalion CO's problem solver. His battalion was covering the main infiltration route from the Ho Chi Minh Trail in Laos into the Da Nang Air Base complex. He was in many battles, but never lost any of his men. In the air, he has crashed 3 times and has come in on fire at night, but always got his plane back. He was also one of only 2 Marine Air Weapons Training Unit in the Pacific remote instructors for 3 glorious years on the Pacific Missile Range and was operating out of Kanobe, Hawaii. He is a member, and in most cases a life member, of several Vietnam military organizations, including, among others, the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Veterans of America, the Tailhook Association, AMVETS, Marine Corps Association, the 1st Marine Division Association. He is also a life member of EVA, Chapter 355, and has helped with and has participated in multiple parades and many other Vietnam-related events, which were designed and conducted to honor and to inform and in some way help veterans of all eras. I present to you Robert Vernon Scobie.
Well, last but certainly not least is one of our own that grew up in Santa Cruz Valley and is a Hart graduate. And I'm really excited to have Tammy Edwards introduce Hart graduate Todd Sharbutt. Todd?
Getting information out of a Navy SEAL for a speech is very difficult to do. I got what I need, though. So the year was 1987. Todd was 18, I was 15. I vividly remember the day that he came to my home and told me that he had just joined the Navy. I was a very naive and ignorant 15-year-old and had many questions. And I said, "Why the Navy?" And he said, "I'm going to be a SEAL." Do you remember this? And I said, "What's a SEAL?" Because back in 1987, you never heard the word SEAL. And he said, and I quote, "They're the guys that do a lot of badass stuff and you never hear about it." And I said to him, "Well, if you're not going to get credit, why do you want to do it?" Didn't make sense to me. Several months later, Todd set out on what would be a 25-year career. After graduating from basic underwater demolition SEAL training in June of 1989, Todd was assigned to SEAL Team 3 Hotel Platoon. As Hotel Platoon's primary communications department head, he made 2 deployments to the Central Command area of responsibility during Operations Desert Shield and Storm and Operation Southern Watch. In 1993, after his tour with SEAL Team 3, Todd was one of few selected to attend Naval Special Warfare Development Group. While at Naval Special Warfare Development Group, he deployed in support of Operation Uphold Democracy in Haiti, Joint Endeavor in Bosnia, and diplomatic security in Algeria. Upon completion of his tour at Naval Special Warfare Development Group, he returned to SEAL Team 3 as the Delta Platoon Leading Chief, where he was then promoted to Senior Chief and deployed in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. His next assignment was at the Bud's third phase leading chief, tongue twister, and was then promoted to Master Chief and was reassigned as the basic training Master Chief. Master Chief Sharbutt was then selected as Command Master Chief of Naval Special Warfare Unit 3 in Manama, Bahrain, and deployed throughout the Central Command. Following this tour, he was assigned as Operations Master Chief at SEAL Team 3 and deployed to Iraq before being chosen as the SEAL Team 3 Command Master Chief, where he once again was deployed to Iraq. In Master Chief Sharbutt's 25 years, he did 12 deployments, 8 of which were combat deployments, and lost 66 fellow SEALs in combat. He was awarded the Bronze Star Medal, Meritorious Service Medal, 3 Navy Commendation Medals with Valor, 3 Joint Service Achievement Medal Awards, 2 Navy Achievement Medals, 3 Combat Action Medals, Expert Rifleman Medal, Expert Pistol Medal, and numerous campaign awards. The reason why I get sad is because, I'm going off script here, we hear so much about everything that these men do and women do for our country, but we don't ever hear about what they don't do. They don't get to go to the first day of school with their children. They don't get to tuck them in bed at night. They miss the birth of their children sometimes. They give up a lot, and we don't really ever talk about that. And to all of you and to all the veterans here, we honor you for that because you give up so much. Today, Todd resides in San Diego with his lovely wife, Amy. Amy's here. He has 2 children, a daughter, Lindsay, who's with us today. His son, Dylan, has followed in his dad's footsteps and is currently stationed in Bahrain. Todd also has 2 stepchildren who are very dear to him, Jasmine and Alex. Master Chief Sharbutt, at age 18, you had a dream. You wanted to come back home, and you wanted to earn respect, and you wanted people to be proud of you. I can tell you today, on behalf of the entire Santa Clarita Valley, the Hart High School District, your friends, and your family, we respect you, we are proud of you, and more importantly, thank you.
Tammy, thank you so much. I don't know if you noticed, but Tammy was sitting in the corner for about an hour trying to figure out exactly what to say, and Tammy, you hit it out of the park. Thank you very much, and great job. Great job. The reason why we're here today is to honor the recipient of the ING Scholarship, and there's no greater gift to our country than the gift of your life in service to our country. So I'd like to read off those Santa Claritans who gave the ultimate sacrifice. Specialist Stephen Colley, Sergeant John Conant, Sergeant Ian T. Gielig, Sergeant Dennis Lee Sellen Jr., Sergeant Dean Todd, Army Specialist Rudy Acosta, PFC Robbie Wilson, Lance Corporal Ricky Slocum, PFC Jesus Ricardo Flores-Mejia, PFC Jake Suter, and Cole William Larson. We will forever be in your glory. At this point, I'd like to recognize a few people in the room. Bob and Kay Slocum, Gold Star parents who lost their son, Ricky Slocum. Thank you for coming. And I'd like to welcome up at this time Tim and Delia Gielig, so we can present the Gielig Scholarship. To please come up. Tim and Delia, please come up. So Ian Gielig was born in Ian Gielig was 25 years old from Stevenson Ranch, California, and was a 2002 graduate of William S. Hart High School. He enlisted in the Army in October of 2006 and took his basic training in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. After attending basic airborne school at Fort Benning, Georgia, Ian reported to Fort Bragg, assigned to the 126th Transportation Company. Ian was stationed in Kuwait beginning in July of 2007 for a 15-month time period. In August of 2009, he deployed to Afghanistan again, assigned to the 782nd Brigade Support Battalion. He was killed in action March 1st in the Kandahar province of Afghanistan when enemy forces attacked his vehicle with an IED. Ian award decorations include the Army Commendation Medal, the Army Good Conduct Medal, the National Defense Service Medal, the Afghanistan Campaign Medal with Campaign Star, the Global War on Terrorism Medal, the Army Service Ribbon, and the Overseas Service Ribbon, and the Basic Parachute Badge. Ian is survived by his parents, Tim and Delia Gillig, and his two sisters, Vanessa and Liana Gillig. Help me to thank Ian for his service. I'd like to now welcome up Oscar. Oscar, come on up. Oscar Orgel is our award recipient for 2013. Oscar was born on June 1st, 1986, and grew up here in the Santa Clarita Valley. He went to both Highland Elementary School and Santa Clarita Elementary School, and in 2004 graduated from Hart High School. What's in the water at Hart High School? Those Indians. 2 weeks after graduation, Oscar shipped out to boot camp in San Diego to become a United States Marine. Oscar completed boot camp in September of 2004 and went to School of Infantry to complete his MOS training to be a mortarman. In January 2005, he joined a reserve unit in Point Hueneme. Oscar was activated in October of 2008 and deployed in March of 2009 to Iraq. Oscar returned home in August of 2009 and finished his 6 years of service to the Marine Corps in June 2010. Oscar is currently a full-time student at College of the Canyons and getting plenty of practice on what he's passionate about, our radio, TV, film, by working for COC Cougar News, SCVTV, and KHTS AM 11, 12, 20. Oscar comes from a family of 5 children and states he feels fortunate and grateful to his parents that raised him well and worked so hard to provide for him and his 4 siblings. Please help me to honor this year's Ian Gillig Scholarship Award recipient.
In behalf of the Gold Star families, and we all thank you for your continued support, for keeping these memories of our fallen heroes. So thank you so much for being here today.
I just wanted to say thank you very much, City of Santa Clarita. Really appreciate it. J.D. Kennedy for convincing me to fill out that application, and to all the honorees here today as well. Thanks to the many people in my life, like my family, and also currently what I'm doing now, trying to get a career going post-military. The SCVTV, Cougar News, David Brill, Megan Perez, and Carl Goldman and Jerry Goldman at KHTS Radio. And also thank my Marine Reserve Unit, 2nd Battalion, 23rd Marines in Port Hueneme, where I was stationed at, and the people that I served with, great people, and I'm just fortunate and lucky, and thanks to City of Santa Clarita. I really appreciate your generosity. It's just overwhelming, and I'm speechless, and I'm forever grateful. Thank you so much, everybody.
But one last time, we had a vision. We had a vision to come out as business people that maybe are insulated from war, insulated from those that are deployed, and come out and honor those that gave so much but maybe weren't appreciated. Maybe we're appreciated, but certainly we have an opportunity to come out and say thank you as a business community. So on behalf of all of the Santa Clarita Valley, we honor you men, and we honor you men and all you that are out there giving of their lives every single day. So thank you very much for coming out. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.